And people go, well, can they control the system from China? Yeah, they can. That can't happen here.
A global superpower somewhere else tap into our grid network and effectively turn it off at will.
Absolutely. At a very small scale, it happened in America this week.
Wow.
The perverse thing is, you and I, who perhaps can afford to pay more, pay the least because we've got the technology. Those who should be paying the least are paying the most. They're subsidizing us, and that's fundamentally wrong.
You've joined me here today just north of Stoke-on-Trent at GiveEnergy's headquarters, where I'm going to be interviewing Jason Howlett, the global CEO of GiveEnergy. He's carved out an hour for me. I'm going to be getting the inside scoop on all there is to know about GiveEducation, the demand flexibility service, and a load of other juicy nuggets. If you want to find out a little bit more, watch on. Let's go. What's the growth plan for the United Kingdom and for these customers, and what should they expect to see from GiveEnergy in terms of the buildings and acquisitions? What are you up to?
Great. Well, thanks Ian, and thanks for coming down. Oh, where do we start? There's just so much going on. I've been here just over 2 years, so I think most people know I've been in the industry for a number of years, and renewables for 15, 20 years, I think. In one way or another, and I joined this company to make it bigger. So it was dominant in the UK, and really pleased that you were one of the early adopters of the technology. I was selling multiple brands through a wholesaler. I used to be the managing director at Seagen. When I was approached about coming here and really helping scale the business we were 2 companies at the time I joined. I think we're now about 15 companies.
Is that JMH Ing?
So JMH, yeah.
I've read that somewhere, but I don't really know the context behind it.
So a little bit of a backstory of GiveEnergy. So the founder, who's also called Jason, which gets quite confusing at times, but it also makes it quite easy. So when he founded the company, he brought the product. So he bought the factory in China. So he's originally from Hull, British guy. So this is truly a British company. He bought the factory in China. We make no excuses that we make products in China. And so they were making products for others. So the factory in China has been making product for 12, 15 years. It's been making the GiveEnergy product since about 2017. So the concept was launched in 2016. So it was being brought in under his original entity of JMH. GiveEnergy itself was founded here in the UK in 2018. So it's selling there. And now we went through a phase of only making product for GiveEnergy. Now in some other markets, we're white labeling but they're not in the UK or Europe, but we do now make products again as we've scaled. So, the factory is producing our product. That's where the founder spends most of his time, out there. So I was brought in to really help scale the business. So we had GiveEnergy and GiveEducation. We can touch on GiveEducation later.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it's a fascinating element to what we do and the philanthropic area. But we've really grown internationally. We've grown our product line and our products portfolio, and we've really grown our influence in software. And I think that's one of our key areas of growth and what we've done.
Right, so you don't subcontract any of that R&D out?
You do anything.
So you do the manufacturing, GiveEnergy, you do the software, GiveEnergy, the aftercare, GiveEnergy, and all the support, the whole...
The portal is entirely ours as support.
So do not white label, subcontracted any of that? Because I know a lot of these other manufacturers that are out there that perhaps if other people are doing this comparison of products almost, there's a lot of white labeling that actually happens in the industry.
Oh, massive.
There are some huge brands, I'm not going to mention brands, but there are some huge brands out there that people wouldn't necessarily realise actually just create an API for their software, stick a sticker on the front, charge twice the price that the Chinese company's doing, and going, here you go, we've generated our own product, and that's just not the reality with GiveEnergy, which I think why we're so invested in it.
And it was one of those things that people still, I think, don't realise we are the manufacturer. And so we do manufacture the product. And like I say, currently in China, and that's one of the next phases of growth. But to go back to what we did here, so we bought this building, the head office here, the UK head office, about 18 months ago. We were just growing too quick. The plan was we were going to build a head office on the land about 2 miles down the road.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we got the factory there, the assembly facility. We bespoke containerized systems, and we make the commercial all-in-one in that facility, which is about 2 miles down the road from where we are.
Okay, so that is literally manufactured in the UK on that block.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the plan was we were going to make a head office there. We just grew too quick and was like, we're going to have to buy a place. And again, the owner, very much in this self-sufficiency, was like, I'm not renting a place, I'm not leasing a place. So we bought this building, and it's like all the vehicles we have, we drive electric vehicles, they're all bought. We don't lease anything. So it's very much around being self-sufficient in what we do. And then we really stepped up over the last 2 years, the software. So when I joined, there were 6 software guys who were really behind all the early portal and the app. And like I say, all of that's been self-developed here. We're now up to about upwards of 40 people and still massively recruiting in software.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was that big.
Yeah, so the floor below us is our global software center. So every part of our software around the world is done here. So we're currently manufacturing in China. We assemble. So I'm very clear on the distinction, because again, you get these people that, we manufacture here in the UK. You don't, you assemble. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Core componentry comes from our facility in China. We assemble and put it here, and then we are able to ship those out as UK made products. So from a badge, they are UK made, but most things in the UK are assembled here.
But all your actual support, from my understanding, is all based slap bang where we're sat.
Yeah, so on the ground floor here, our UK support centre. So we're now in Europe. We have 2 locations in Europe, one in Eastern Europe in Romania, one in the Netherlands. I have to sort of think where we are. We're now in South Africa. So we've got a facility in Johannesburg. We're in Australia, both Adelaide and Melbourne. And then we've recently opened the Singapore office for Asia to really help us bridge that gap. And actually some of our software team are going to be based in Singapore. So we're just, as part of our expansion, because it's that chase the sun concept, we can't manage Australia from here. It's impractical. So the first phase is bringing in skills. So there's no point in building a team of graduates. They need people to lead. So we've been bringing a senior team of software engineers and a CIO and the whole organization that fits around there. So we work with the local colleges and universities in the area, so a number of those, and we're working on a number of different aspects. So we do the knowledge transfer, KTPs. So we've got students being placed here to build their knowledge and work on their own projects. We bring in graduates and apprentices and helping bring that through, as well as then bringing in the experienced team. And so the software actually is our USP.
100%.
Because there's a white paper we'll be publishing in the next week. And we've been talking a little bit about GDPR. And one of the really unique things is data and customer data.
Am I right in saying yours is stored here? Because I think that's another thing I've seen versus others, that they're shipped into different places in Europe, and some are a bit. Some of these like AWS, but some of them are some bit.
Yeah, so we use AWS. It's cloud-based service. We don't have a server system here, so we're using AWS servers. So they're secure servers, cloud-based, based here in the UK. So all our data comes into the UK. It doesn't go to China. We have a very clear differentiation between the done product we manufacture in China and then in the intelligence we give it here. So that's really unique about us. I don't think there's any other brand, there's certainly no other Chinese brand that operates in this way. And the really interesting thing, and you touched on it there a little bit, you see some manufacturers saying, your data's stored in Europe. It's a version of your data is in Europe. So it's technically not a lie, but it's a little bit misleading.
Ropey, describe it.
So you've also got a version of your data in China, and it's being accessed by China. Our data isn't accessible by the Chinese team. Because one thing you find in China, the state is the law. So if you look at GDPR legislation in China, they will say, yes, we have GDPR legislation, but that covers you and I exchanging data. You and I couldn't exchange data. We would fall foul of Chinese data law. But if the state asks for that data, they have the right to ask for that data, and you have to provide it. So this becomes, a really interesting element to where do you want your data and how secure is your data? And we feel, and this is what will come out in the white paper, there are a number of companies at the minute mis-selling this and not making sure consumers are aware of the risk of what's happening with their data. And MI6 talked about this recently in the State of the Nation, the data mining, the data collection, because it's not just about your energy data. Foreign states are collating all data from
where you live,
everything.
what you do, your IP address.
Yeah, everything is being collated from all different data sources. And so you're seeing this now, and MI6 warned against this just a couple of months ago, that you're seeing this potential. And this cybersecurity, there's been an incident in the US recently from a Chinese branded, or a branded product that's from a Chinese manufacturer that's well known. They've had a massive security breach in the US, and they've kind of, and still it's not fully come out yet, but it's kind of this, they seem to have shot themselves in the foot because they've been playing around with systems without people knowing and giving consent. And people go, well, can they control the system from China? Yeah, they can. That can't happen here. It's controlled from here.
I think when you've got, Mr. and Mrs. Jones that are buying a simple 3.6 kilowatt hybrid and a 5 kilowatt battery, they never go into this level of detail behind. And that's what I think most people don't realise why we're so invested within the GiveEnergy brand and why we're huge advocates of it is you're thinking of these things. You're not just going, here's a product, let's slap a label on it, let's shift numbers. You're actually going, let's take this right back to the core of it. Let's R&D our own products. So you're testing and trying new things to be able to create great products.
And this is one of the aspects of what we talked about with the data, because it's so important. We can't outsource it. We've made another acquisition recently called Orange Power, which is part of the grid services.
I've got a question.
But it's because we did partner to start with, some trialing, and it's kind of like, no, this is so important. We need this in-house. So we looked on the market and who we could work with, and really who were really at that pioneering front end. And we were like, okay, this is who we want to work with now. So we acquired the company, and now they're fully integrated into our software team.
So who was Orange Power, as you now? So
they're us.
Is that related to a lot of people, again, domestic customers, small grade commercial customers, aren't particularly aware of the fact that the demand flexibility service is out there? I think for context, the demand flexibility service, I took part in it last year. I think I got 120 quid out of it, paid for my takeaways.
Yeah.
And it certainly helps with return on investment. Essentially, when the grid needs that power the most, the GiveEnergy battery system before the event can charge up on cheaper electricity, dump it out the grid. And I think I got one event, £2.10 a kilowatt. It was just like money for all drunk, is how I'd describe it. So is the demand flexibility service going to be, is Orange Power related to that? And are you kind of, because you had Give Back, and I noticed that we can't subscribe to Give Back. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you plan to integrate that? Have you kind of created your own version of that?
So Give Back, that's the mechanism of giving back, like you say. So anybody who's got a GiveEnergy battery, we were really at the forefront of this last year.
Oh, yeah.
Others are copying it this year. You can see, a number of people have announced it this year. Oh, we're doing it this year. Oh, great. Welcome to the party. Keep being a year behind. We're fine. So we're already on that next phase. So Orange Power is an aggregator. And we'll bring that whole solution, because there's more than just demand side flexibility, demand side reduction. There's 6 different grid services you can take part in.
Okay.
This is
like me, I'm learning.
Absolutely. So we think the return for people should be £300 to £400 per year off these amount of services. Now that will change because it's a market factored event. So you've got balancing mechanism, you've got frequency response. We had an incident about just probably over a month ago. The interconnector failed, and the grid voltage dropped because we were suddenly short of power on the grid. Our batteries deployed to the grid to bolster that and support it. So it's not just about the revenue, it's about actually you do good for the grid by having a GiveEnergy battery. So it's a secondary issue, but you can earn money from that, because now what we're seeing is more reliance on renewable energy. The grid now is more susceptible, and therefore if it fluctuates in its voltage, then the batteries will come in to be charged or discharged as required. And so all these grid services are now becoming more and more accessible to the homeowner. We need to make sure we get that to as many homeowners as possible, because it is money for nothing, like you said, and it's just maximizing their investment. If you've made the decision to spend £10,000-15,000 on a solar and battery install, and again, you don't need solar to have this, you can have a battery only to access these. But why don't you want to maximize that return? Utilize every different variability. So Orange Power gives us even more scope to do that, and on commercial systems as well as residential, because not enough's being done in that commercial space. So we're already working into that next phase and the full range that are available to people. So, we can see others now trying to copy, but they're doing it with third parties. We think this is so fundamental to grid security that we're doing it ourselves. And again, it's that taking and doing the investment in what's right, let alone what's cheap and quick. because the very simple way of doing it is you outsource that. You send your API links to a third party. That still poses a risk, because with that great quote, I can't even remember who said it now, with great power comes great responsibility. When we discharged our batteries to the grid to hold it up during the frequency dip, what would have happened if we'd have suddenly charged all our batteries? We'd have probably tripped the grid. We think we've now got enough storage capacity distributed across the grid to create an event on the grid. I've jokingly said before, I'm not going to try that out because I think I'd be very irresponsible. Yeah. But you're at that point now. If we can do it, can you imagine what others can do as well? And as you see bigger systems being deployed and bigger storage systems, these will have a bigger effect. So we're doing a lot of lobbying. I personally do a lot of lobbying with government, the previous government, the current government, to really ensure people are aware of the cyber threat, because these virtual power plants that we're now creating are incredibly powerful for good, but they're also pose a risk for the future of the grid. So it's who you're putting your trust in when you're making these investments. We think it's so critical that you know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a British company who completely comply to GDPR rules, completely comply to ISO 27001, the cyber assessment framework that the government's launched. We're working towards that, and we'll be completely next year, even though it's not in law, we will already be at that level, because it's so fundamental. It's what we believe in rather than what's required to be done. But that's a huge investment that requires funding and money and everything else.
So is your thinking then essentially that one of the risks to the UK and our national security, I mean, this has gone very deep, is that effectively you could have a global superpower somewhere else tap into our grid network, and effectively, instead of destroying it, they could eventually turn it off and turn it on at will?
Absolutely. At a very small scale, it happened in America this week. And that's caused a huge furore. It's not come out in public knowledge, but we're aware of it because it's a small industry. But we know this is possible. And the more we invest in renewables, and I don't want this to put people off, because it's about choosing the right partner.
It's about choosing the right partner,
exactly. But if you're, there's a real sentiment now in America about they will not allow products from a certain country, which is going to cause a huge problem because most of the products come from that country. But that's now becoming very, very evident, and it poses a bit of a challenge to us because we weren't thinking of going to America, but maybe we do need to in the short term because we're already doing so many other things. But yeah, you imagine London or any city, which will affect cities first, without energy. What happens? You've got no internet, you've got no road traffic systems, you've got no banking, you've got no supermarkets, you won't even be able to go and get a coffee or anything from a coffee shop, because everyone wants now electronic payments and all the tills and everything linked back. So what happens?
Well, we saw a cloud strike, didn't we, in our software updates?
Exactly.
They took everything out.
So, can you imagine London without power for a couple of days? Looting, rioting, it would almost be inevitable. So as countries become more sophisticated in their technology, they become more susceptible to cyber attacks. And this, we felt the last government was starting to, but didn't really take it serious. This current government, I think, takes it more serious. And again, the MI6 update talked about the security of the electricity grid. Very low down, I think probably about the third to last paragraph it was in his report that was given, that this is now becoming a potential risk to our network. So yeah, we know that I'm a UK citizen. I live in the UK. I do not want the UK to be susceptible to these risks. So we're doing the right things ahead of all legislation, and we want to drive that legislation to meet this, because I do not want the UK to be held to ransom by a foreign state interfering on our grid.
We also don't want to be held to ransom, I suppose, by physical energy prices. I think most people don't realise that we pump huge amounts of energy all the way from Europe to be able to supply our grid, and actually battery storage, in the same sentence, that's during tea time, in the same sense at night time, we're turning wind turbines off because we're generating too much.
Yeah.
So effectively, by shifting this demand, charging your home battery, it seems so minor actually when you sat at home. By charging your battery up at night, you're effectively able to supply it and get independency, I suppose, away from other nations where we're a little bit beholden to their energy costs. And I think long term, in my mind, that reduces and helps with actual end user energy prices in the long term. And
that's what Labour have been promoting with GiveEnergy, is to promote more and more renewable energy and renewable energy projects, because like I say, that energy is so much cheaper at night. and it's typically greener. So you're not only getting access to the cheapest energy, but we know at periods of time you're being paid to take energy off the grid, particularly in summer when there's so much. So if you've got the ability to take that energy from the grid, you're getting you could get free energy, certainly cheap energy that can power your home. In winter, we know you're not going to get as much solar. On a good day, I might get 3 or 4 kilowatts off my roof. In summer, I'm getting 40, 50 kilowatts. But, that just keeps the battery topped up. But if I'm buying energy overnight at 7, 8p.
I think I pay 6p.
Yeah,
I'm the jump.
But you know what it is? I can get even down like 5p, I think, with one energy provider. So I think, you save 5 to 10p, you buy it overnight. But you power your home off that
it's
energy.
75% reduction. I don't think people realise, essentially, that you can literally run your whole house off a battery.
I know.
And you introduce this technology into people's lives and they go, I'm paying a fraction of the price I was. Well, they're paying nothing during the summer months, often they're getting a credit back. And then during the winter, essentially in my household, I'm 75% reduction in the bills. I'm getting a credit during the summer off the solar panels, which is offsetting against any gas bill in the winter. If you've got a heat pump, even better in my scenario. And I'm trying to make that transition. So winding back to the weave, what are you thinking of doing in terms of the building acquisitions? Because are you buying the place, is it next door?
So we own the place next door. So that's 5/6 let. So 2.5 floors are let, but it's 3 times the size of this building.
Okay.
So it's got half a floor currently available and potentially a full floor, which is almost the same size as this building. So we see the expansion of the software team. I'll probably end up kicking them out over next door. But and we've been doing, when we had a bumpy year 2 years ago with the unfortunate occurrence of what happened in Ukraine, and I think the whole industry boomed on the back of the massive energy prices that caused that sort of shock. And for our industry, it was just post COP in Glasgow, so we felt there was a bit of a tipping point coming on there. It really got people focused on energy and the reliance on Russian gas to keep the grid going. So we saw this huge investment and huge spike. You see it in MCS data and everything, the amount of installs that went up about 2 years ago. So, we were utilizing that ability as the industry really went into boom to acquire some assets that sort of fit. So we built the factory down the road, like I say, bought this place and then really been investing back into this community.
You bought another piece of land. Is that for GiveEducation then?
That's a partnership with Newcastle and Lyme Borough Council. So they've been incredibly supportive of us, as has Stoke-on-Trent City Council and Staffordshire Borough. As we've been getting to be well known, they see the growth that we've gone through here. We're creating jobs and prosperity into the area, which is desperately needed post potteries and
it's unheard of. It's unheard of really in the UK. Everyone's going, we need to ship this abroad, we need to do this. And actually you're, rather than leaning out, you're full on leaning in and taking on hundreds of jobs in the area.
So we bought a piece of land with the council and we've got planning permission in at the moment with the Borough Council for 12 units, so then 11 new units. So that should get planning permission around February time, and that's to build startup units. So we're working with a local agent here who we've utilised a number of times to buy properties, to then make properties available. So again, working with Keele University, University of Staffordshire, and the colleges, how do we get more people interested in clean tech and create a bit of a
Silicon Valley?
Yeah, it is that very much that way, and go, right, well, let's put something again back into this area. So that's probably halfway between here and the factory. Once we build these units, then we want clean tech entrepreneurs, and we've already been approached about somebody going into one of the units, even though we haven't even got planning permission, is in that supply chain, but potentially be suppliers to us and help us in that supply chain. But also then how can we support them, maybe with angel investment or with leadership guidance, but certainly easy and easy out terms that we want to do in these units that go, right, use this area, use North Staffordshire as an area to think of being a clean tech hub. The people around here are brilliant. They need that new industry, post potteries, post mining. What's next for this area? So if we can create this starter hub, clean tech hub that we want to, and hopefully, like I say, it's in conjunction with the council. So I don't think they'll reject the planning permission as long as we do everything right.
Yeah.
Then we'll be able to do this over the next couple of years.
It's really interesting. So the next question I've got for you, Jason, is a lot of the customers are there. So I find that you're able to afford solar. It always becomes a luxury. I feel like the future of solar and battery storage is actually accessing those people that are getting the end of the month, these people that have just had their winter fuel allowance cut away, or those people that are going, you know what, I'm actually really struggling. I work really, really hard to earn this money, and it just seems to evaporate at the end of the month. And I feel like solar and battery storage could really be the solution from them. But one of the weaknesses I find is people being able to actually access low rate finance. Like we, as a company, we've approached finance providers and they want 18% for 0% interest-free finance. And it's just, you can't get a return on your investment. How I see it is, if you could give people access to the actual technology and the savings they make on the bill, they make a bit, and then as a business, the business makes a bit as well, and they're winning, the business is winning, and all round, and they're able to actually contribute towards a lower carbon footprint. I really see that being a big part of the future.
I completely agree. Yeah, and I've said this. If you're struggling to feed your family, you're not going, should we put solar on that? Should we buy a battery this month, this year? You're not. You're thinking, how do I survive? And the removal of the winter fuel payments for many elderly people, and so you've got people really struggling to afford those bills. So how do you access technology to those people? So again, one of the things I've been lobbying hard with government, and I think we're getting some traction, and we're working with a local charity here called Beat the Cold, is trying to get technology into people who are genuinely struggling. So it's very pertinent here because Staffordshire is the #1 county and Stoke the #1 city for energy poverty. There are people really on our doorstep who are really struggling. So we're going to fund a trial ourselves. If you keep waiting for governments, it just takes too long.
You need to inspire them, not
exactly. So we're going to show them how it works. So we're going to do a small scale trial, install batteries only, give them access to this technology. Because what we said is, stop giving payments out to people, invest in technology, because not only will you then benefit the grid, because you take the pressure off the grid by more and more batteries, it dilutes grid investment with National Grid. And we know DESNZ, because I've been part of it, I've been modelling that work. So how much more storage do you need before you don't really need to do the billions in grid infrastructure? Well, don't do that. Put that investment into people's homes who desperately need it. So take away payments, give them technology. Like you said before, drop their bill to a quarter or a third of what it was by allowing them access to that cheap electricity. The perverse thing is, you and I, who perhaps can afford to pay more, we pay the least because we've got the technology. Those who can afford to pay the least, or should be paying the least, are paying the most. And what really, if you put it into your mind, they're subsidising us, because the energy companies are making their profit, and how it all works, they're the ones who are paying the least, and that's wrong, fundamentally wrong. So we're hopefully making some progress in that space. But we've got a number of people involved on there, but say, I want to get this trial done. We're going to fund that, put the batteries into some homes and go, right, there you go. We've told you it works. We've done it. Now, government, get behind us. Conceptually, they are.
Proof of concept.
Yeah, Ed Miliband was here. He opened the factory earlier this year. He got the concept. He spent 2 hours with us. He was downstairs and going around, and everyone, he was only meant to be here an hour, and it was 2 hours with us. He gets it. And I've been continuing that lobbying to say, help people. Now, then the other angle is like I say, you've got the people who can afford it at the top, if you like. You've got disposable income. And we certainly saw that during COVID, when people weren't taking holidays, weren't going to restaurants because they couldn't. They were like, what do I spend my money on? And I remember having this conversation with my uncle. It's like, well, 10 grand in the bank is not doing hardly anything for you. Put it on your roof and in your house.
Trouble your investment.
You're going to make a much better return. And he did, and he has. But it's that, it is that. So, and that middle, and you touched on it again earlier, you're starting to see these subscription models come out. They are ridiculous. When you price it up, people are being scammed again.
It's ROI again, and they're not getting it, and it's not good for the customer.
No.
It's interesting, actually, and it's quite inspiring the way that you're doing that. And I think when I look at, my wife's a primary school teacher, and I know this is off-piece and not part of any of the questions, but they've been reducing the temperature in the classrooms to 15, 16 degrees because they can't actually afford the gas bill to heat the school, because the government's there desperately trying to give them money, but actually what they need is efficiency.
Yeah, but the homeowner is like, well, how do they get access to this? So we're working on a concept right now that really does, I think, revolutionize something. I can't say too much because it is at the cutting edge of what we're developing. I'm recruiting the team as we speak that's building this concept within software, because again, making solar, renewables, battery storage available to as many people as possible. Our vision is empowering energy freedom for all. And it really is, because we want to cater for everyone. We want everyone to have that technology, be it somebody who's really struggling on base income or support, somebody who's got loads of money, different house types, but commercial property, utility scale. We're even bidding on massive utility scale projects across Europe right now. So our product range goes across everyone, but our moralistic values really to provide a solution for everyone. It's part of the reason we launched the Polar brand, to really bring a low cost, and it's been really interesting that it's almost people have criticized it being too cheap. It's like, it can't be very good, it's too cheap. But no, we've literally done something to try and change something for housing associations and really bring technology into that space, to give that technology something. But the payment mechanisms, I think the offerings that are starting to come out are certainly carrying a huge premium. I think we've got something very, very exciting that goes beyond that will be coming out probably next year. It's probably going to take me about 6 months before I have something, but we're working on something I think pretty special in that space.
That'd be pretty exciting for those people that are going, look, I really want to make a sustainable choice. I've got kids. I want to be doing the right thing. I want to make the investment, but I've only got 3,000 or 4,000 because I don't have the 10 that's needed. That they can effectively, they can access that. So I think the last question we've got before we wrap all this up, because I know you're a really, really busy man, is GiveEducation.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing.
GiveEducation was one of the other companies that existed pre-me, but it was also part of, it shares my values too for developing talent and young people. So GiveEducation is a partnership working with Kiel University. So we fund a team at Kiel, and we have a team literally outside my door here that's working on that. So it's basically developing free software that we will give to schools to really help teachers deliver better learning outcomes for students. So again, going back to the founder's backstory, he grew up in Hull, very much said if it wasn't for a teacher discovering him, and he's really prodigious talents, he's an incredibly talented guy, he wouldn't have been able to start this had he not been. And so he said if it wasn't for that teacher discovering him at 11, he'd either be dead or in prison, because that's what basically happened to a lot of his cohorts in peer group. So he recognized that. I share that same vision, and I've done it through many organizations I've been in before, that we work with colleges and the university, bring in young industry students. But GiveEducation is really developing this software using ML, machine learning, and AI. I know they're buzzwords at the minute, and we never made a big thing of it. We have that already in our software, but some people are now going, oh, we do this. Oh, again, wow. Yeah. But it's buzzwords. But we've been working on this now for 18 months. So it's a 3-year program that we've got with Kiel. We're already in prototype testing with schools, and we're getting some fantastic feedback. In fact, I was back in Westminster yesterday just talking about this concept, because the GiveEducation side, I think, is such a brilliant thing that we do, and we're probably investing around about £500,000 a year into this organisation. And that's purely, we've had no funding, we've had nothing, and we've been talking to ministers and Bridget Phillipson about this concept of going, again, we just want to do this because we want to, particularly in those STEM subjects, bring people's education up. The national curriculum, and you'll know this if you say your wife's a teacher, but it caters for the sort of 60, 70% in the middle. You've got teaching assistants trying to help those at the who need the most support, and then you've got the talented ones who might be getting a bit bored, not fully challenged, and everything else who are at the other end. So how do we help get the national curriculum across everybody at the level they want? And so technology is really embracing that. So we're working now with all the local schools. We acquired a small edtech consultancy last year to help really drive this, Sartori. So we made an acquisition in this space too, but it's really about what we can do. And we've expanded. So kind of GiveEducation, although its primary focus is developing the software that we are giving to schools, like I say, and again, it's not about making any money from this, it's about what we can bring into the community. But we're also trialing it now for business users. So we're piloting it here about providing a learning management system, an LMS, to develop training for our staff. So utilizing what we've developed in GiveEducation, and then potentially there is a sellable item that go, well, if you buy this system, you're funding children's education. So if we can make it cost zero, that would be brilliant. At the minute, we're probably, like I say, pumping in about £500,000 per year. The aim is it becomes break even by making a commercial offering that funds all the schools. But we've used that, and then we're working with primary engineer, because last year we did the pilot. There were 10 schools in the primary schools in the local area where we delivered STEM projects into the school. So basically, the primary engineer charity gives a kit to the schools. They come in for training here. We train the teachers how to deliver STEM because they don't have the skills. Then the primary school children. So the estimate was about 500 children last year in this area got taught STEM, funded by us. And I went to the celebration event last year. It was phenomenal. I think we had about 100 kids there, all sharing their projects, and I was helping assess them, and they were so proud of what they'd done. And it was really great because it was about 50-50 boys and girls. You've not got this thing about how do you attract girls into this space. At that age, they're interested. So how do you keep building that? And we're working now with the Inspirational Learning Group, a Stafford-based charity, to build that through into secondary school of keeping all people interested in STEM. So that's another project that we're now kicking off. But going back to primary engineer, this year we're doing 15 schools. We've expanded it. Next year I'll do 20. So I'm building it up to do more and more primary schools into the North Staffordshire area. So I think last week the teachers were back in for training at Chemical Lane in our training room. They were going through their training. So we've done, and then this year, I get confused in years, Keele University, we did a summer school where we had 86 students from first generation going to university and going, right, if you want to think about going to university into software, renewables, then Keele's a fantastic facility for doing it because it covers both. It's got the Smart Energy Network demonstrator and a fantastic computer science school. So we did this program with them. And we again see the changing attitudes that you saw. I think it was like 25% students who thought university might be for them on arrival. 2 days later, including an overnight stay, and there, I think it was like 86% left going, I think university could be for me. So again, changing those attitudes in this area with a lot of poverty and a lot of negative things, and going, well, give hope to people and say, post that there's jobs here at companies like us in this area who want people like you to come through and develop that virtual pipeline of talent. We want people to grow up and want to work for us.
Sowing seeds.
Yeah, from 6-year-olds all the way through to people post degree who then can go into our tech park. So we've got this sort of line of sight. We're here for the long haul, but it's that what we bring into a community, not what we take. So we don't sponsor stupid things, just to get the brand out there. We actually sponsor children's futures. It's about the values we have. It's about the people we are. We touched on it. We had the opportunity to sponsor a massive rugby club, and we were like, but it's not us. You go, wouldn't it be great? GiveEnergy is sponsoring this club, and you go, but we don't want that. I'd rather invest it into children, this community, this area, and go, let's build it up. And one area we didn't touch in our future plans, and again, it cropped up. I was talking to some of the local MPs last night. We are exploring about bringing mass manufacturing back into this area. It'd be probably a 2-3 year plan if we can make it work. But we got starting to get the backing of the local councils and the government to start to think, how do we bring mass manufacturing of what we do in China? Because we need to do it in more locations. We're growing, as you've seen, but bring that back into this area, because I'd love to do it here. And from the heart, we want to do it here. Financially, it's not stacking up because many other places in Europe want us to be manufacturing there, but we will be manufacturing outside of China into Europe somewhere in the next few years as we continue to grow. We'd love to do it here, and that's what we're trying to get the backing and working with here, because, like I say, we really see ourselves as this, as a beacon company that can really help transform this area in so many ways.
And I think so many people don't realise this when they're literally just sat shopping different components. They see so many of these, again, I can't stress it enough, the white label products that just simply get slapdashed out. And no, this is the whole purpose of this video today, was just to really embody almost how invested in the UK this business actually is, and the teams and everything around. So when you call someone in the call centre, say they're here, they're being developed here, you're shooting those grass shoots in to be able to develop for the next stage. It's not just almost like a white labelling saying, look, we're here for a little bit and we've got a small team here, like a lot of others do, where they've essentially got a sales rep in the event that it goes wrong. Your actual tech support.
If there's something in the app that goes wrong, it's the team below is dealing with it. It's all here, and that's, like you say, I think we stand apart from what we stand for,
100%.
because there is nobody doing this in any brand, in premium brands or anything, and the values that we have and the way we go about our business is completely unlike any other. But we don't make a big song and dance about it. There is no report about this. But it's again, we're not show. We are go. It's what we can do, not what we can tell you who we are, and it's just different values. It's about what we do rather than what we say.
Jason, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. You're one of the busiest guys in the business, growing all these buildings, adding all these people, doing schools, meeting with ministers, and you're taking out, but it's probably an hour out of your time to be able to invest it within me to educate our customers and hopefully our future people that are interested in us. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks,
cheers, Jason.
Thank you.
If you want to get all the inside scoop on all the latest, greatest products and find out all there is to know about solar panels and battery storage and the industry that we're in, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Many thanks.